Okay, I want you to close your eyes for a second. We're going to do a little visualization exercise. Picture two very different scenes. In scene one, you're sitting in a university lecture hall. It's an old building, maybe a bit dusty, and in front of you, there's this massive chalkboard covered in, well, in what looks like absolute gibberish. We're talking complex equations, geometry, the laws of physics. It's serious, it's rigid, and for most of us, let's be honest, it's a little intimidating.
It's the architecture of reality.
Yeah.
Dry, precise, unyielding. It's kind of where fun usually goes to die, right?
Exactly. It's pure brain power. Now, snap to scene two. It's 2 a.m. You're in a warehouse or maybe a club.
Okay.
It's dark. There's fog in the air. The bass is physically rattling your rib cage, and people are just losing themselves in the rhythm. It is chaotic. It's visceral. It's purely emotional.
The completely different universe. Or, I mean, that's how we've been trained to see it.
Yeah. Right. We tend to keep advanced mathematics and raving in very, very separate mental boxes. One is for the brain, the other is for the body. But today, we're diving into a stack of notes that suggests these two worlds aren't just compatible.
They might actually be the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating premise. The idea that underneath all that chaos on the dance floor, there's a hidden order.
We're looking at a new emerging genre called fractalonica. And honestly, even the name sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel.
It does.
Specifically, we're unpacking the work of an electronic music producer, Andy J Martym, and his two big releases, Fractal Fever Volume 1 and Volume 2.
And I love this topic because it really challenges how we consume music. The research here, it shows Martyn isn't just, slapping a cool sci-fi name on a standard techno track.
Right, just for marketing.
No, he's trying to do something fundamentally different with the structure of sound itself. He's using the concept of fractals, those complex geometric forms built from simple repeating elements, to completely reshape how we experience a dance floor.
So the mission for this deep dive is to bridge that gap. We need to figure out how you take a mathematical concept, like a fractal, and turn it into something that makes people want to move. Because, let's be honest, fractal-based sound design, it sounds a little bit like homework.
It does sound a bit heady, yeah. But that's the trap, We think of complexity as something difficult or academic, but fractals are actually about how simplicity creates complexity.
Okay.
It's how nature works. And when you apply that logic to music, like Martyn does, you get something that feels incredibly organic, even though it's, strictly digital.
All right, so before we get to the albums, we have to ground this in a definition. Fractalonica. What is it? The source material defines it pretty specifically.
It does.
It's described as a style characterized by evolving rhythmic patterns.
Yeah.
And repeating structures that shift over time.
Right. And if you're listening and thinking, well, doesn't all music repeat? You have to look closer at that definition.
Well,
the key phrase is shift over time. In traditional music, or even architecture, you build a structure and it stays there. The chorus is the chorus. The verse is the verse. It's static. But here, the structure is alive.
The notes mention this sound design approach is explicitly inspired by fractals. I think we need to really unpack that word for a second. People have heard it. Maybe they remember a trippy screensaver from the 90s. But what are we actually talking about here?
The classic example, and the one that really helps visualize the sound, is the fern leaf. Imagine you're holding a fern.
Okay.
You look at the whole frond, the big shape, and it has this specific sort of triangular structure. Now, pinch one little branch off that fern and look at it closely. What do you see?
It looks like a miniature version of the big one.
Exactly. And if you had a microscope and you looked at the tiny leaflets on that little branch...
Same shape again?
Same shape again. That is self-similarity. It's a simple rule repeated at different scales. It's infinite detail, but it's all derived from one simple piece of code.
So it's not just repetition. It's repetition that scales. How on earth does Andy J Martym translate a fern leaf into audio? Is he out there recording plants?
No, not exactly. That's the magic trick. The sources describe his process as blending hypnotic repetition with constant motion.
Okay.
Think of it this way. In a standard dance track, the drummer plays a beat, and 4 bars later, they play the exact same beat. It's a photocopy.
Right. It's loop-based. We all know that sound.
In a fractal approach, the beat repeats, but maybe the decay on the snare drum gets, say, 1% longer every single time. Or the pitch of the hi-hat shifts by a tiny fraction based on some mathematical ratio.
Oh, wow.
It's the same shape, just like the small fern branch is the same shape as the big one, but it's existing in a slightly different context each time.
So it's a paradox. It feels repetitive so you can dance to it, get into that trance state.
Yeah.
But it's actually never the same thing twice.
Precisely. The notes mention that the music feels both mathematical and emotional, and that phrase really stopped me in my tracks. We don't usually call math emotional. Usually, math is cold. It's calculating.
I equate math with anxiety, usually. High school algebra was not an emotional journey I enjoyed.
A lot of people feel that way, but think about a spiraling galaxy or the way a seashell curves. That's pure math, the Fibonacci sequence. But when we look at it, we feel wonder. We feel beauty. Martin is tapping into that specific feeling.
So the music has mathematical precision, everything fits perfectly, but because it's always evolving like a living thing, it creates an emotional journey.
Exactly.
And this is where it gets really interesting for anyone who actually listens to electronic music. The source makes a massive point of contrasting fractalonica with traditional electronic dance music structures.
Yes, the dreaded formula.
We all know it. Even if you don't listen to EDM, you know it. The song starts, it builds up, the snare drum goes tat, 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 tat.
The pitch rises.
Everyone screams, and
Then
then
a drop.
boom. It's Pavlovian. It works, for sure, but it is incredibly predictable.
It's a roller coaster. You go up the hill, you drop down.
Yeah.
You know exactly where you are on the ride at all times. It relies on this really artificial tension and release.
Right.
What the source says about Fractalonica is that these tracks evolve organically. They totally reject that artificial hands-in-the-air moment.
So instead of a roller coaster, what is it? If I'm on the dance floor, what am I experiencing?
Think of it more like watching the tide come in, or watching a flower bloom in a time-lapse video. You can't point to the exact second the flower opened. It's a seamless, continuous unfolding.
Okay.
The documents mention the mechanics involve subtle changes in texture, rhythm, and tone.
Texture's a big one. I feel like in pop music, we listen for melody.
Yeah.
We want the hook. In this kind of genre, it feels like you're listening to the grain of the sound itself.
That's a great distinction, absolutely. Maybe the bass starts out smooth and round like a polished stone. Over 3 minutes, it slowly becomes gritty, jagged, like sandpaper. You didn't hear the moment it changed, but suddenly the vibe of the room is completely different.
That seems like it requires a different kind of attention from the listener. You can't just passively consume this while you're scrolling on your phone.
It rewards deep listening. That's explicitly in the text. If you're waiting for the drop, you're going to be frustrated. You might even be bored. You have to tune your ear to the micro changes. It asks you to be present.
But, and this is a big but, the source also says it's designed for dance floor immersion. This isn't just art gallery sound art for people in turtlenecks.
No, and that brings us back to the hypnosis part. When you're on a dance floor, you want to get locked into a groove. You want to shut your brain off a little. If the music is too chaotic, you can't dance. If it's too repetitive, you get bored.
It's the Goldilocks zone.
Exactly. Martin's approach uses that fractal repetition to hook your body. The kick drum is reliable, the pulse is there, but that constant motion keeps your subconscious engaged. You don't realize why you're still interested 10 minutes later, but it's because the math is tickling your brain. You are literally dancing to the math.
I love that. Dancing to the math. Okay, so we have the theory. We know what Fractalonica is trying to do. Let's see if it pulls it off. Let's start with Fractal Fever, Volume 1.
The foundation.
The notes literally call it that, introducing the foundations of Fractalonica. So if I put this album on, what am I going to hear?
Volume 1 is really about establishing the vocabulary. It's like if you're inventing a new language, you have to teach people the alphabet before you can write a novel.
Right.
The sources highlight core rhythms, layered patterns, and looping motifs.
Motif, that's a word I hear in classical music, not usually in a techno track.
But it fits perfectly here. A motif is just a recurring idea. In Fractalonica, that looping motif is the seed, the simple element we talked about, that then grows into the complex form. Volume 1 is all about exploration and discovery.
So it's like the artist is saying, okay, come into my lab, here's the toolkit, here's how this universe works.
Exactly. It's drawing you into this new sonic language. Think about the first time you heard a genre you never heard before, like jazz or dubstep. At first, it might just sound like noise. You have to learn how to listen to it.
Okay, so Volume 1 teaches you how to listen.
It uses repetition and variation to teach your ears what matters in this genre.
So it's stripping things back a bit.
To a degree, it's highlighting the process. It sort of lets you hear the gears turning so you understand the machine. The machine is still mesmerizing.
Okay, so if Volume 1 is the 101 class, what happens when we get to Fractal Fever Volume 2?
Volume 2 is where we start writing poetry. The source describes it as expanding on these ideas and pushing the sound much further.
It mentions increased complexity.
It does. More complex arrangements, deeper grooves, and refined production techniques. If Volume 1 was about discovery, Volume 2 is about mastery.
I think it's interesting how the notes distinguish the two. One introduces the concept, the other develops it. It shows this isn't just a gimmick.
Right.
Sometimes an artist finds a cool trick, does one album, and you go, okay, cool trick, and then they have nowhere else to go.
That's the danger. It can feel like a tech demo, like, look at this weird noise my computer can make.
Right, look what my synth can do. But this suggests a real trajectory.
Precisely. It demonstrates that this idea can evolve while remaining rooted in its fractal-inspired identity. And that's the hardest thing for any artist to do. How do you stay true to your sound without just repeating yourself?
And the answer, ironically, is in the fractals themselves. Infinite variety from a consistent rule set.
You nailed it. Because the core concept is evolution, the genre inherently resists getting stuck. Volume 2, having deeper grooves, suggests a real confidence. The production is tighter, the rhythms dig in harder. It's moving from this is an experiment to this is a movement.
Okay, let's talk about that movement, the deeper grooves. Does Volume 2 feel more like a club record than Volume 1?
The sources suggest the production is more refined, which, yeah, usually translates to a heavier, more physical sound. It's less about showing you the math on the chalkboard and more about letting you feel the math in your chest, more visceral.
Let's zoom out a bit. We've defined it, we've looked at the albums. What does this mean for electronic music in general? The source positions Andy J Martym as an innovator. That's a heavy label.
It is, but I think it's earned here. So much innovation in electronic music comes from technology, a new synthesizer, some new AI software. But this is conceptual. It's about reshaping how rhythm, structure, and progression are experienced.
He's changing the philosophy of the track, not just the instrument he's using.
Exactly, it's blurring lines. The notes mention 3 areas: art, mathematics, and movement.
Right. We talked about art and movement, that's the dance floor. But bringing mathematics back in as a primary driver of the experience, that's the synthesis.
It's saying that the structure is the art.
So it's almost like he's trying to rewire our brains.
In a way, yeah. We are conditioned by radio to expect certain things from music. We expect the verse, the chorus, the bridge, the drop. We expect a song to be 3.5 minutes. Martyn is asking us to experience music more like we experience nature. A river doesn't have a verse and a chorus.
No, it's just his.
It flows, it changes speed, it eddies, it rushes, it slows down. It's consistent. It's always the river, but it's never the same river twice. That's the experience, yeah.
That is a beautiful way to put it. Organic progression.
And that's why it rewards deep listening. If you treat Fractal Fever like background noise while you're doing the dishes, you might just hear a repetitive beat. You'll miss it. But if you actually listen, you hear the textures shifting. It's active participation.
It's creating a space where you can be a nerd about the sound design and still have a great time at the party.
Which is a rare combo. Usually the smart music is a bit intellectual and the fun music is simple. This is trying to be both.
So for the listener who's thinking, okay, I'm intrigued, I need to hear what a fractal sounds like, where do they go?
Thankfully, no need to go hunt down some obscure vinyl in a basement in Berlin. The sources confirm both Fractal Fever Volume 1 and Volume 2 are on all the major platforms: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, all of them.
Which is great, because sometimes these experimental genres can be pretty gatekept. This is out there for everyone.
And I think it's important that it is accessible, because while the concept is high level, fractals, math, the result is visceral. It's music. You don't need a degree in geometry to enjoy it.
They just need ears and maybe a little bit of patience.
Exactly. Let the groove do the work.
So let's recap our journey. We've covered a lot of ground. We started with the contradiction, math, and dance, the chalkboard and the disco ball.
And we found the bridge in Fractalonica, this genre by Andy J Martym that uses these evolving structures to replace the old build-drop cliches.
We looked at Volume 1 as the foundation, the primer, setting the rules of this new sonic language.
And Volume 2 as the evolution, the expansion, deeper grooves, more complex arrangements, really proving that this concept has legs.
And ultimately, we saw how this is a forward-thinking approach that blends art, math, and movement into one experience. It's not just noise, it's calculated beauty.
It's a reminder that structure doesn't have to mean rigidity. Structure, like the structure of a fractal, can be the very thing that allows for infinite variation.
And here's where I want to leave you, the listener, with something to chew on. Next time you're on a dance floor, We usually associate freedom on the dance floor with letting go, with chaos, with unpredictability. We think we're escaping structure.
Right, we think we're breaking the rules.
But Fractalonica suggests that the music moving you is based on strict mathematical rules repeating patterns, logical shifts.
So the question is, if the music is based on these mathematical fractals, does that mean your experience is actually more structured than you realize? Are you following a script you can't see? Or does that constant organic shifting make it more unpredictable than any human-composed melody ever could be?
Listen to the albums. Decide if you hear the math or if you just feel the emotion. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Keep listening.